Princess Diana was laid to rest at Althorpe, so that death might give her what life so rarely did: privacy. Now an explosive claim says Prince William has taken legal steps to remove his mother's remains from the Spencer estate and place them on royal ground. If true, it would be an extraordinary family rupture and a deeply personal intervention by Britain's future king. But before anyone celebrates William, condemns Earl Spencer, or declares Harry and Meghan defeated, there is a problem. The claim arrives with enormous emotion. It carries almost none of the evidence such a claim should leave behind. No official announcement is identified. No court document is shown. No lawyer is named. No date is supplied, and no destination is confirmed. That does not automatically prove the story false. It does mean we cannot call it breaking news, simply because it feels like something William might want to do. Welcome to Royal Receipts, where royal drama still has to survive contact with the evidence. Today, we are following the emotional case behind this story, the painful history that makes it believable, and the missing receipts that prevent belief from becoming fact. The story has found an audience because its moral structure is instantly recognizable. William is cast as the dignified son defending his mother's peace. Earl Spencer is portrayed as the brother who benefited from Diana's connection to Althorpe. Harry and Meghan are accused of turning remembrance into publicity. In that version, William finally reaches his limit and says that his mother will no longer be used by anyone. It is powerful. It is also a combination of fact, allegation, inference, and personal judgment. Those categories cannot be blended together simply because the resulting story is emotionally satisfying. A person may believe Diana's memory has been commercialized and still ask whether William has actually begun legal proceedings. In fact, the stronger the accusation, the more important that distinction becomes. The emotional foundation begins at Diana's funeral. William was only 15, walking behind his mother's coffin while cameras recorded a grief no child should have had to perform in public. Among the flowers was a small envelope bearing one word: Mummy. The image remains painful because all the ceremonies surrounding it could not disguise what had happened. 2 boys had lost their mother, and the world was watching them endure it. That memory gives the present claim much of its force. William has long been associated in the public imagination with restraint and protection. The circulating account says he was consulted about Diana's burial, despite being a minor, and believed Althorpe would keep her away from photographers, intrusion, and exploitation. Whether every detail of that account can be independently established from the material provided is another question. But its emotional logic is clear. The boy who wanted his mother left in peace has supposedly become the man determined to enforce that peace. And yet a memory is not a legal filing. The sight of William at the funeral may explain why people want the story to be true, but it cannot prove that the alleged action has occurred. That distinction also protects William. Attaching his name to an unsupported legal claim does not strengthen his position. It asks the public to assign him motives, plans, and private decisions he has not confirmed in the material before us. If the story later collapses, the damage does not remain with the commentator who promoted it. It spreads to the people whose grief was used to make the headline feel credible. Diana's funeral should help us understand the stakes. It should never be used to bypass the standard of proof. To understand why suspicion falls so heavily on Charles Spencer, the story travels back to Martin Bashir and the Panorama interview. The transcript describes Bashir as a journalist unable to reach Diana directly, so he approached the person who could open the door: her brother. Spencer listened, took the allegations seriously, and helped arrange contact with Diana at a time when she was already under extraordinary pressure. According to this account, Diana had reason to feel watched and betrayed. Private conversations had become public. Her mental state was being discussed and judged. Bashir's claims therefore landed at the worst possible moment, feeding the fear that even people close to her could not be trusted. The transcript says Diana asked her brother whether he believed Bashir, and Spencer's confidence helped persuade her to listen. That introduction mattered. The interview changed the course of Diana's public life and became part of the chain of events that ended her marriage. It is therefore fair to examine Spencer's role and ask what responsibility follows from helping Bashir gain access. But the source goes much further. It argues that Spencer was instrumental in the divorce and even in the path leading to Diana's death. That is not a conclusion established by the material supplied. A consequential introduction is not the same as sole responsibility for every event that followed. The difference may be less dramatic, but it is essential. Otherwise, a complicated history is reduced to one villain and one straight line of blame. The next part of the case concerns Diana's attempt to return to Althorpe after her divorce. The transcript says she wanted to rent a house on the estate, partly so William and Harry could spend time in the place where their mother had grown up and understand their Spencer heritage. It claims Charles initially agreed, discussed charging her, and later withdrew the offer. The refusal is presented as the rupture that left the siblings estranged. There is an undeniable emotional contradiction in that account. If Diana could not find a private home at Althorpe while she was alive, why did her connection to Althorpe become so valuable after she died? That question has driven much of the anger in the comments. Viewers describe a sister turned away in life and a global icon drawing attention to the estate in death. Still, the transcript gives conflicting monetary figures, while some commenters dispute how final the estrangement really was. Those comments do not settle the history either. Most importantly, the claim that Diana would still be alive if she had stayed at Althorpe is a counterfactual, not evidence. It expresses grief and regret, but no one can prove the life that might have followed a different summer. After Diana's death, Althorpe was framed as the place where she could finally be protected. The island, the water, and the distance from public access created an image of seclusion. Yet the estate also became a destination for visitors, and Diana's association with it plainly shaped public interest. Critics see that as proof that privacy was gradually converted into commerce. That concern should not be dismissed. A family can describe a resting place as sacred while also benefiting from the attention it attracts, and the tension deserves scrutiny. But scrutiny is not the same as declaring motive. One commenter who had visited Althorpe described the atmosphere around the lake as respectful, melancholy, and contemplative. Others called the site a theme park attraction. Both reactions tell us how divided the audience feels. Neither reaction, standing alone, proves exploitation. The same distinction applies to Harry and Meghan. The source interprets visits, images, and references to Diana as attempts to generate attention or money. It then contrasts Harry with William in the harshest possible terms, suggesting that one son truly loved his mother while the other loves only publicity and cash. That is not evidence-led commentary. It is a judgment about a son's inner life that no outsider can prove. Whether Diana's memory has become too central to the Sussex public identity is a fair question. Private visits, too, could reasonably be expected to stay private. And it is easy to understand why Harry might describe visiting his mother as paying homage, rather than exploiting her. The relevant question is not which interpretation produces the angriest reaction. It is what the available evidence can actually establish. And that brings us back to the claim that William has taken legal steps to move Diana's remains. What would we expect if such an extraordinary action were underway? At minimum, there should be a named source with direct knowledge, a statement from a representative, a legal filing, an identified court process, or credible reporting that explains where the case stands. The material provided offers none of those things. It also leaves major practical questions unanswered. Where are Diana's remains legally recorded as being interred? What permission would be required for an exhumation? Who would have standing to request it? Would Harry's agreement matter? What authority would William possess now, as Prince of Wales, rather than later as king? The source confidently says that children take precedence over siblings, but it provides no law, document, or expert to support that conclusion. The comments expose the uncertainty rather than resolve it. Some viewers insist Diana is on the island. Others claim the island is only a memorial and that her remains are elsewhere. Several say relocation would be extremely difficult. Others believe William can simply reclaim his mother. These cannot all serve as facts at once. They are theories, memories, and personal convictions gathered beneath a video whose central claim still lacks a receipt. An evidence ledger for this story is unusually clear. The supplied account confirms that a dramatic allegation is circulating and shows why it resonates with people who remember Diana. It supplies a historical argument about Spencer, Bashir, Althorpe, and the continuing battle over Diana's legacy. What it does not supply is proof of the event advertised in the headline. The historical material may provide context for a possible motive, but motive cannot verify an action. Even a perfectly logical explanation of why William might move, his mother cannot establish that he has instructed lawyers, obtained permission, or selected royal ground for a new burial. There is even confusion in the source about the identity of Earl Spencer's current wife. That may seem minor beside the question of Diana's remains, but basic inconsistencies matter. When a report asks the audience to trust an unnamed legal move while getting surrounding details muddled, skepticism is not hostility. It is responsible viewing. So here is the verdict. The moral debate is real. Diana's resting place should be treated with dignity. Her memory should not be reduced to a commercial asset, a weapon in a family feud, or a shortcut to online attention. Earl Spencer's history with Bashir and the dispute over Diana's proposed return to Althorpe deserve serious examination. Harry and Meghan's use of Diana's legacy can also be questioned without pretending that we can measure the private love of two grieving sons. What cannot be responsibly stated from this material is that Prince William has removed Diana's remains, that he has confirmed plans to do so, or that verified legal proceedings are underway. The source builds an emotionally persuasive case for why he might want to act. It does not demonstrate that he has acted. Perhaps future documentation will change that conclusion. If a filing, formal statement, or credible report appears, it should be examined on its own merits. Until then, "I hope this is true" must not quietly become "this is true." Those are two entirely different sentences, and the distance between them is where misinformation thrives. Tell me what you think. Should Althorpe's relationship with Diana's memory face greater scrutiny, and what evidence would you need before accepting that William is trying to move her remains? If you value royal commentary that separates the headline from the receipt, subscribe to Royal Receipts and join us for the next investigation. If this story is truly about protecting Diana, the first thing that deserves protection is the truth.